everyone, happy Sunday. I'm making a video today because I wanted to actually make something for you, start to finish, so you can see the process. And I didn't know what I was gonna make, but I had this kind of thought this morning. I saw a recipe for a blue cheese swirl bread, which might sound kind of odd, but it looks beautiful. And I am right now really into making things with yeast and bread. So I figured it would be fun. Plus the other day I bought some really nice French blue cheese at Whole Foods and I didn't have anything to do with it. I'm making a really nice dinner tonight. So I thought I was thinking originally that I would just have some blue cheese. I made some little bar nuts that I make with rosemary and brown sugar and paprika. And then I realized that I had this bottle of Dolce in my fridge that I have to drink. Dolce is a wine that I used to sell. It is a Sauterne style sweet wine, which I would say a lot of people are turned off by sweet wines. Immediately they think I don't drink sweet wine, and most people don't open a bottle of sweet wine and sit around in their backyard and drink it all night long. But the reason I thought of this wine is because it's such an incredible pairing for blue cheese. I would say that the cheese that I bought, it's called Bleu d'Auvergne, sorry. It definitely brings out the best qualities in the Dolce, and it helps people to understand why you would drink a sweet wine, which is that it's a food pairing wine and it goes so well with rich fatty things. And I want to have this kind of at the beginning of dinner. So we're going to have some bar nuts. We are going to have this blue cheese swirl bread, some nectarines that I have that are kind of overripe, a little honey. And I think the Dolce will be a perfect pairing for that. So I need to drink this. So I'm making this bread. So as far as the bread goes, so seemingly simple. I haven't made it yet. But in my mixer, I have flour, just regular AP flour, a little bit of salt. I have 1 envelope of yeast, and that's already all in here. I'm not even gonna bloom the yeast for this recipe. It is just going to go right in the flour. In my measuring cup, I have milk and butter that I warmed up. I added a little cool water to cool that down. Whenever you're making bread and you wanna use something, the liquid will typically be warm. You don't want it to be hot. So the key is that you touch it and it feels slightly warm, kind of like if you went to the ocean and felt it and it felt like you wanted to get in. But typically the ocean here doesn't feel like that. But you know what I mean. If you've been to the East Coast or Hawaii or anything, a nice warm, like a bathtub. So I've got my dough hook on here. This is really very simple. I'm gonna put the milk and the butter and that little water. Whoops, don't do that. I just splashed it everywhere. I'm gonna put it in my mixer and I'm gonna turn this on low speed. One mistake some people make is putting it on too fast. The flour, everything will go everywhere. I've done that many times. I actually did that last week making cookies. It's really fun. Then you have to clean it up. So start slow and you're just gonna kind of let this come together. So this dough, I'm gonna try to bring it together in probably about 6 to 7 minutes. When you are kneading dough, using your dough hook on a mixer, sometimes when you start to make your bread, it will look like it's not coming together. Eventually, as long as there's enough, the right proportions of ingredients, it will pull away from the side of the bowl, and you'll see that happen. So I'm gonna let this go for a few minutes and I will show you what it looks like when it's ready to go in the bowl and rise. Okay, so my dough is in a good place where I'm ready to let it rest. And I'll just show you what it looks like. So I always tell people if they're asking me about bread, what you want is you want it to clean the sides of the bowl. So that's essentially what it's done here. This is a pretty soft bread dough. It has milk and butter in it, so it's been enriched with fat, which will give you this kind of like satiny quality. So I have a buttered bowl here. You always want to grease your bowl when you're letting a dough rise so it doesn't stick. And also this already has butter in it, so it's nice to coat the outside with butter too. It's not going to hurt it or change the dough at all. I will kind of form it into a round when I put it in my bowl, just so it rises nice and even. I'm going to set it in the bowl. What I'm going to do is cover this now with a round of plastic wrap and set it on the back of my oven. My oven is on at 300. that gives it kind of enough warmth to keep the rise going. If you live in a cold place and your kitchen is freezing cold, it will be challenging to get your dough to rise. So it's important to set it somewhere warm. Some people turn their oven light on and put it in there, and the oven light is enough to warm it up. So there's a lot of ways you can give your bread the environment that it needs. But I'm gonna let this rise for about an hour. It's gonna double in size, and then we're gonna roll it out, put blue cheese, and I'm gonna add a little Parmesan and maybe a little thyme, and I'll show you how to do the next part. Okay, so it's been like 45 minutes, almost an hour, but I'm looking at how much rise I've gotten out of my dough, and I'm ready to proceed with adding the cheese and making it into the correct shape. So just so you can see how much it's risen. So I love the smell when you take the plastic off there. So this is what the dough looks like. I am going to just deflate it a little bit and put it out on the counter. I'm gonna turn my camera so you can see what I'm doing. I'm gonna dust my countertop with a tiny bit of flour, not a crazy amount. This dough, because it has butter in it also, is not really gonna stick very much. So take this, and there's a few different ways I could do this. So the way the recipe describes is to roll it into a long oval, put your cheese in and roll it up and spiral it around. But there's a different way that I am going to do this. I'm gonna put a tiny bit of flour on the dough, not too much, and just kind of roll it out into somewhat of a round. It doesn't have to be perfectly round, but round is nice for what I'm going to be doing. So this looks pretty good, and this dough is soft and stretchy. It feels like it's gonna be great. I have this blue cheese that I crumbled up. I'm gonna just kind of put it all over, move this around a little bit, break the pieces up a little bit more. And I also don't want to just have blue cheese. I'm supposed to use 7 ounces. I had about 4.5. So I figure I can make up for that with a little parm, which I'm gonna sprinkle over this. And after I put all this cheese into the bread, I'm gonna kind of push down on it and make sure it's in there. I also picked a little thyme from my garden, which I'm gonna add into this too, because I just think thyme would be really nice in there, not too much. So in thinking about this also, I am doing this blue cheese because that's how what the recipe called for, and I have that wine that I want to have with it, but I'm pretty certain that you can put anything in here. So think sun-dried tomatoes if you like them. I'm not a crazy fan of them, but they would be good in there. Roasted garlic, any kind of like ham and Gruyere. I think even some artichokes that are, marinated artichokes would be good in here. So I'm gonna start with the blue cheese and see how it goes. But so right now I'm gonna roll this up. This is gonna keep all the cheese inside and keep it from coming out the top. So I've got a nice roll here. Now to make it in the snail shape, and I do a lot of breads like this, I'm gonna kind of pull it out a little bit, stretch it, and then you're gonna coil it around itself. So I know that this centerpiece is gonna be delicious. So I'm gonna coil this around. So now we have like this snail-shaped bread essentially. Now, because it's now got cheese in it and it's been flattened, it has to rise again. So what you're supposed to do is bake this in a cast iron pan. My cast iron is 12 inches, so it's too big. I needed a 10-inch pan, but I do have a 10-inch springform, so this will work just the same. So I buttered it pretty well. I'm gonna take this snail-shaped bread now and set it inside. So it's just in the middle. I'm gonna cover this with saran wrap, let it rise another 45 minutes, and it will expand, I think, in here pretty well because this bread is rising really nicely. Then we're gonna brush it with a little heavy cream. I'm gonna put a little Parmesan cheese over the top, maybe a little Maldon salt, some pepper, and then I'm gonna bake it. So we'll come back and do that. Okay, so this is step 500. I'm kidding. So the bread has the cheese in it. It has risen. I'll show you what it looks like. If you remember, it was pretty small, but now it has filled out the whole pan. So it will continue to rise in the oven also. What I'm gonna do is take a little heavy cream and brush the top just to give it a little color. And also because I wrapped it so that the cheese is inside, it's not going to really be visible on the top. So I'm gonna add a little bit of Parmesan cheese. I'm gonna add a little bit of Maldon salt because, as you all know, I love salt. But I just love getting that little sort of saltier bite in there, and so that's why I put it on, and plus I like the way it looks. Whenever you're using egg wash, heavy cream, brushing, you know, a bread or something like that, make sure that it's not pooling in any place, especially egg, because then you'll just have this like mass of cooked egg on there. So I brushed it. I'm gonna just do a little sprinkle of Parmesan cheese on top. You don't want to do too much because it is going to brown quite a bit as it cooks in the oven. I'm going to take my Maldon and just do a little more of that over the top. And I think what would be really good would be a little grind of fresh pepper, because this is a pretty savory bread, and I just think I'm going to like the way it looks and tastes also. So from start to finish, that was pretty easy. And the last part I don't have anything to do with. My oven is responsible. So this is ready to go. I'm gonna put it in the oven for about 35 minutes, and then we're gonna get to see if it worked and it came out good. So I can't wait. So the bread is out of the oven. Oh my gosh, it smells so good. So let me show it to you. I'm kind of hesitant to cut it, even though I really want to taste it. So it's got a little bit of a crust, but it's definitely going to be a soft, I think, so cheesy and delicious, this bread. I don't even know. I'm very excited about it. I wish you could smell it. It smells awesome. So I'm going to cut a little piece out of it just so we can see what it looks like, even though it's still a little warm, and it's probably best not to cut it yet. It's not going to be the end of the world. It's just not going to look as pretty anymore. So let's see. Sorry, it's really hot. And it definitely is a bread that could sit for a bit. So you can see the inside. You can see that there's like a little blue cheese in there, the Parmesan. It's so good, I'm speechless. I highly, highly recommend trying this. Even if you don't like blue cheese, put anything in there. I will post a link to the recipe. The recipe is from the New York Times cooking app. This bread is so good. I am gonna do everything I can not to eat half of it tonight. I think it's gonna be amazing with that wine, and just incredible. So you can see all the beautiful texture of the bread. It's really soft, and I can't even stop eating it on camera. So if you have any questions, or you feel like trying to make this, make it, send me a picture. I'm so curious. And thanks for watching my video. Bye.